Welcome to today's episode on Updates with Ricky. Today we have Fela Durotoye, the presidential candidate of ANN. Welcome to today's program.
It's great to be on the show with you, Ricky.
Nice having you on the show.
Thank you.
Right, okay, so we were chatting earlier about what brought you into politics, basically, because that's what you're aiming for now. Why politics?
Well, I think the first most important thing is just to quickly tell you a story about what made me decide that, you know, something had to be done about Nigeria. And, you know, I know most people think of me as a motivational speaker, and I think that's really what many people see me do on the public front. Professionally, I'm a business consultant, and my area of expertise has always been in leadership development and culture transformation for organizations. That's what I even studied as in my master's and when I did my MBA as far back as 1996. And so whether you look at most of the blue chip companies, the banks today, most of them are my clients. They're organizations that I have helped in developing their customer service and management strategies, their leadership culture strategies, and all of those kind of things. That's really what I do, turning businesses around, especially by focusing on their culture. And I became quite successful at it. You know, my organization, Visible Impact, like I said, has most of the top and leading organizations as clients. But you know, as much as we became successful, you know, and now getting onto the international stage, being asked to come and speak on leadership across the world, there was one particular experience that shaped me, and that was when I was traveling, and I was traveling to the United States, and I was stopped at the Gatwick airport just before I boarded priority boarding, and the lady who was going to just really take my boarding pass and check my identification and tell me, you know, have a great flight, asked me to step aside alongside a couple who was very distinguished. And cut the long story short, she was looking at my American visa with some kind of magnifying glass. And I asked her what she was doing. She said, "Oh, sorry, we were being told that every Nigerian's visa, American visa, had to be scanned with that magnifying glass before." And I felt very violated. In fact, it occurred to me, and I said this in a tweet that went viral, that ordinary citizens of great nations will forever be treated better than successful citizens of failed countries. And more importantly, that individual success in the midst of collective failure will forever be despised. So it didn't matter how many accolades, how many awards I had, as long as I was carrying this green passport and this was a nation that was despised, then my success was diminished and despised. And cut the long story short, that was one of the things that got me to the point where I started saying, look, it's got to go beyond my personal success. We've got to begin to think of how do we succeed as a nation. Now, every nation that has ever succeeded and become great had one thing in common: good governance. And good governance simply means good people who have capacity, who are competent, who have the right heart, and who have the vision and the ability to deliver on promise. Those people must get involved. But in Nigeria, that's the exact opposite. Our brightest and best most times run away from politics because they think politics is dirty. And yet they deal with dirty mouths every morning because they wash it. They deal with dirty bodies, they wash it. They deal with dirty clothes, they wash it. And I keep saying to people, well, so what do you do with dirty politics? Wash it. But wash it with an abundance of clean people. So for me, the journey into politics is not as much of politics. Politics is just the gateway. The real goal is to deliver good governance, because that's what builds great nations. Yeah,
but how then do you put together those good people that will constitute the clean people?
Okay, so you're right. I mean, it's not going to be one man that can solve Nigeria's problem. And I think that for many years, Nigerians have always waited for this one savior that will come and save us. And we've always been disappointed. There's always this elect and regret cycle that we get into, because we're constantly looking for this one person who will come and save us. There's no one person that will save us. It's 190 million people that will save us. And so for me, what we've been doing is, over the last many years, and I mean going back maybe about 3 or 4 election cycles, I've been trying to get, going out there, and that's what the whole motivational speaking thing is, calling people to say, come on, get involved, get involved. And I found out that as much as I was trying to get most people involved, they were saying, well, if you get involved, then maybe we'll follow you. Right. So for me, I think my being involved and running for office in a way itself is one of the ways that we've done that. And today we see a plethora of good people, no doubt about it, including some of the brightest and really best presidential aspirants and candidates today that we hadn't seen in previous cycles. And to a large extent, that's the kind of thing that we're doing, getting people to run for office, getting people to go and get their voters' cards. Now, INEC said we've got 23 million new voters' cards, and that's in part because of the messaging that we've been doing for the last years, getting people to join political parties and run for offices and become executives in those political parties. So that's the work that we've been doing, getting people to run for office, vote for those who will run, and join the political party system. That's the work that we've been doing in getting good people in.
Right. So when you say bringing together good people, I want to take it PACT is one of those things that were brought together in order to achieve that aim. So tell me about PACT. Okay,
so PACT stands an acronym for Political Aspirants Coming Together. It was an initiative that we took a little earlier, sometime I believe it was in the month of July, before many of us became candidates, but we realized that, look, we're dealing with an establishment of two parties, and Nigerians are tired of those two-party establishments. They want a different Nigeria from what it is that we have. But they needed to also feel like there was a credible chance for us to have an alternative, a credible alternative to the two-party system. And so it was clear to us that we needed to have a force that would be led by one of us. And so we decided to give it a try and to say, can people come together? So 18 aspirants came together with the ideal goal of finding one amongst us that all the others will be able to. So, but then we had to go through a very credible process to be able to make sure that we got there. That process was where a lot of people fell off. So some people said, we want to look. Why don't we become candidates first? Some others said, look, we already have some kind of forces right now. Yeah. So that's where some people, quite a few people, fell off there. And then in the end, about 11 of us then got together and said, look, we can do this, and we drew out a memorandum of understanding, and we went through a very transparent process that somehow brought me as the consensus candidate. Right. Unfortunately, some people then left. At least one person left after that candidacy emerged, and that process was gone through. That was unfortunate.
So I want to go by the words or the saying that says, in unity. If you stand in unity, is actually, you stand a better chance, basically.
Oh, absolutely. We're stronger together.
Stronger together, that's the word. So if you guys came together for a particular reason, and then along the way some fell off, do you think that's down to greed, that's down to personal ambition?
I think that to a large extent, yes. I mean, if you look at many of the people who couldn't come together, and to a large extent it was that they couldn't put their own personal aspiration and ambition behind this collective goal of providing a credible alternative, and that's what's going to have to be required for us to get this to work. Everybody has to put, if we're coming together and we're going to make this work, we're going to put Nigeria first, Nigerians next, and we're going to put ourselves last. If we can't get that done, it's going to be very difficult, and I think that's the thing. We need a we generation, not a me generation. I think the me generation brought us to Nigeria that today has destroyed our opportunities. But we need a we generation that would make the collective greater than the individual. Okay.
I had Showore on this program once, and he did mention that he was never part of PACT. He was invited to be at one of your meetings, and for whatever reason, he decided to opt out. What would you say is the reason that he fell off along the way? Or I wouldn't use the word fall off, but what was the reason why he opted out? Or was he never a part of PACT, like you said?
No, I don't know whether he would say he was never part of PACT, because maybe we had about 5 or 6 meetings, and he personally was in 2 of those meetings at the beginning. But he was very quick to also say that he believed that it was better for us to come together as candidates, which he could have a valid opinion about that. I believe, and most of us at that time didn't agree, because we realized that by the time you become candidate, you are no longer just an aspirant with your own. You're no longer in control of yourself. You're now, you're owned by a party. There are many more stakeholders that are involved. So it becomes a much more complicated process to be able to get your party to be able to say, okay, we are all collapsing our aspiration, our structure behind one candidate. So that's, and that's why, so yes, he was a part of it. I don't think it is fair to say he wasn't a part of it. I think that it's important to say he didn't agree with the fact that we could come as aspirants. He wanted us to come as candidates. And he had that opinion, and it's a great opinion. Yeah. We are also seeing that, today, there are many new attempts at trying to get the candidates to come together. And it's proving to be a lot more difficult than we thought because of this, essentially the same reasons that we highlighted during PACT.
The election that brought Buhari into power, I believe you were one of those people that strongly believed in him. So beautiful. I mean, and I love what you said, because then I'm going to have to put you on the spot. And I'm going to have to say to you, can you remember any one thing, one place, anywhere, whether it was a tweet, a video, anything that you saw whilst you were doing your research, where I, at any point in time, endorsed, suggested that not really, to be honest.
So I'm happy that you were, because that's the thing. There's some kind of narrative that some people have put out there, which I have shared enough, quite enough times to say, I never supported or endorsed General Buhari, never asked anyone to vote for him, never. And it's not me trying to deny him because he's a bad product. No, I just didn't. And again, if you, the internet never forgets. If you go check, you would never find one place. The only thing that I actually said in the course of the 2015 elections, at any time when I spoke publicly, was to say, vote your values. And that, for me, I don't think is an endorsement of any one person over the other. So the most important thing is to say, it is not true that I endorsed General Buhari. It's a narrative that is out there. It is not true. The internet does not forget. Everyone can check. Sure. And the most important thing I really want to put out there is, so that everybody can remember this, is that the fact that something trends does not make it true. And I think that, of course, there are spin doctors who have made it trend that Fela was one of the people, but it's not true. And I think we should please note that.